Seoul has been ranked 10th out of 135 cities in the latest Global Financial Centers Index, which assesses the global financial competitiveness of cities, marking its third consecutive year within the top 10.
세계 주요 도시의 금융 경제력을 측정하는 국제 금융센터 지수 평가에서 서울시가 전 세계 135개 도시 중 10위를 기록해 3년 연속 10위권에 들었습니다.
Yeah, so this index is a biannual publication, meaning it comes out twice every year.
Yeah.
And it's issued by this London-based think tank, and it evaluates cities based on 5 categories. They are human capital, business environment, financial sector development, infrastructure, and reputation. And Seoul, in fact, in the top 10, like the headline suggests, just behind the top spot of New York, London, Hong Kong, placed 1, 2, and 3. But Seoul actually overtook cities like Beijing, Geneva, Paris, and Tokyo, and placing in the top 15 in 4 areas of competitiveness.
You said it's held 2 times every year, twice a year.
Yes.
So in March and September, I believe. And that's called what?
That would be a biannual report.
Biannual, with an A.
With an A. Or you can say semi-annual, which means the same thing. Now, if you say biennial, that means once every 2 years, right?
Yeah,
it's a little confusing.
It is a little bit confusing. Biennial with an E. 어떻게 쓰죠?
That's B-I-E-N-N-I-A-L. Did I spell
그러네요.
that
그런 것 같아요.
Yeah.
맞는 것 같아요.
There's
네.
an E there.
그래서 가운데 E가 들어가는 biennial일 때는 2년에 한 번씩이라는
Yes.
뜻이고 지금 얘기하는 거는 1년에 2번씩 biannual. by 다음에 A가 들어갑니다.
Right. Think of the Gwangju Biennale. Biennale is a form of biennial, meaning once every 2 years.
그렇죠. 그래서 3월과 9월 이렇게 매해 2번씩 금융 경쟁력을 나타내는 국제금융센터 지수 순위가 발표가 되는데요. 서울이 이번에 또다시 10위를 기록하게 됐습니다. I believe the last time in March it was also in the top 10, or was it 10th place maybe?
Yeah, and Seoul actually ranks very high in things like fintech as well. Fintech, Korea is obviously a very connected city. You can go anywhere. Fintech, we're talking about technology involving finances, like simple mobile payment is also fintech, right?
그렇죠. 그 핀테크 부문, 핀테크가 finance and technology를 혼합한 단어인데요. 핀테크 부문에서는 서울이 8위를 기록했습니다. 굉장히 좋은 성적이고요. Let's have a look at the expression to assess.
Yes. So the issuers or the publication that issues this index, what they do is they assess or they evaluate or judge these cities based on criteria. Right?
평가하다. 그래서 평가가 assessment. And in this case, the Global Financial Centers Index, this assesses the global financial competitiveness of cities around the world.
Right. So competitiveness being the noun form of to compete. So to see how successfully someone is or how being more efficient, innovative, or sort of attractive compared to others, right?
Yeah, exactly. Competitiveness는 경쟁력. 그 다음에 이제 경쟁하다는 compete가 되겠죠. So in the classroom, students compete against each other. In the world, companies compete against each other. And we are often assessed on how well we understand something.
Yes.
At school especially.
Right.
Students are assessed on their ability to learn a language, for example, or calculate a problem or something.
Yes. And
or solve a problem. Yeah.
And it gets very competitive.
Yes,
right?
it does. 두 개는 종종 컨텍스트상 같은 문장에 들어있을 법한 그런 표현들이죠. 평가하다, 그리고 경쟁하다, 평가, 경쟁력. All right, well, here's the headline again. Seoul has been ranked 10th out of 135 cities in the latest Global Financial Centers Index, which assesses the global financial competitiveness of cities, marking its third consecutive year within the top 10. Let's move on to the next headline.
The number of foreign national students enrolled in Korean universities exceeded 250,000 for the first time this year, representing a 21% increase from 2024, according to the Education Ministry.
올해 국내 대학에 다니는 외국인 유학생 수가 전년 대비 21% 늘어나면서 처음으로 25만 명을 돌파했다고 교육부가 발표했습니다.
Yeah, it's actually a 20% increase compared to last year. So more than 250,000 international students are currently studying here in Korea. And of that, degree-seeking students, so these are students that are actually enrolled in full-time programs, that's about 70% of the total. The other 30% would be people probably in language schools or other technicalities or technical skills learning, but actual degree-seeking students are 70% of that. The humanities and social sciences are still the most popular, but there's also been a slight increase in STEM sort of education students. About a quarter of all students, foreign students here in Korea, are in the STEM fields.
Science, technology,
Engineering
and maths.
right?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. 그래요. 이제는 점점 더 과학과 이공계 분야에 관심을 보이고 있는데 현재로서는 인문 계열에 굉장히 많이 등록이 돼 있는 외국인 학생들입니다. 지금 전체 외국인 유학생 수가 25만 명이 넘었다고 했는데 그중에 70%가 실제 학교에 등록해서 공부를 하고 있고 나머지 한 30% 정도는 뭐 어학 코스라든지 이런 것들을 밟고 있는 것 같아요.
Yeah. So more and more Korea is becoming sort of an attractive sort of place. And it says a lot about the education environment here in Korea that a degree from a Korean university really holds well in the international sort of field.
It does. A lot of foreign national students in Korea are enrolled in universities, as you said.
That's right. Enroll, E-N-R-O-L-L, meaning you're formally sort of registered or you're signed up to take part in university courses, or it could be a program or a school, usually.
대학 등록을 enrollment라고 하는데요. To be enrolled in a university, 그럼 어느 대학에 등록이 되어 있다라는 의미가 되겠죠. E-N-R-O-L-L. And representing.
And if you represent something, that means you're sort of showing or indicating, in this sort of context, in the headline where this figure of 250,000 means a 21% increase, it represents or it indicates, right? It amounts to that figure.
It shows, it indicates, it represents 이런 것을 보여준다. 그래서 25만 명이라는 숫자가 그냥 딱 들었을 때는 그게 많은 건지 적은 건지 감이 안 올 수 있는데요. 작년에 비해서 21% 늘어난 것을 보여주고 있는, 나타내고 있는 수치다.
Yeah, I think a couple of years ago, several years ago, I think, remember when Angelina Jolie, her son, Maddox, I think, enrolled in a Korean university, and that caused a lot of, a lot of waves here, a lot of interest, and people thought, why is he coming to Korea? But it shows just just where Korea stands now on the global stage.
Exactly, 그래요. 헐리우드 스타들의 자제들도 공부하고 싶은 나라 대한민국입니다. 자랑스러워요. 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. The number of foreign national students enrolled in Korean universities exceeded 250,000 for the first time this year, representing a 21% increase from 2024, according to the Education Ministry.
Renowned roboticist Rodney Brooks warns that investing billions in humanoid robot startups is wasteful, predicting future robots will favor wheels, multiple arms, and specialized sensors over human forms.
저명한 로봇 공학자 로드니 브룩스가 휴머노이드 로봇 스타트업에 수십억 달러를 쏟아붓는 건 돈 낭비라고 경고하면서 미래 로봇은 인간 형태보다는 바퀴와 여러 개의 팔, 특수 센서를 갖추게 될 것이라고 내다봤습니다.
Yeah, so this roboticist, if you're not familiar with him, he is one of the founders of a company called iRobot. He was a famous engineer at MIT, and he says that there's a lot of power and money and time put into trying to make robots look like humans, look like you and me. But the problem is that the human body is very sophisticated. If you just look at the hands alone, there are about 17,000 touch receptors, they say, in hands that are hard to duplicate in robots. And the other issue is a safety thing. So if you spend a lot of energy trying to make these robots sort of quote unquote stand up, then they are a big hazard if they fall because they become very heavy. So it's probably, when we talk about robots in the future, they probably won't look like you and me, like a humanoid, as they say, but rather they'll have wheels and things like that.
Yeah.
Think, there's coffee shops speaking of, when I was driving up at one of the rest areas here in the expressway, there was a machine that makes coffee for you. It's a
arm?
It's just an arm.
Yeah, I love
and
those.
That's a robot, and
Yeah.
it's like a vending machine. But soon they'll be replacing humans, I believe.
Yeah.
But it didn't look anything like a human.
Yeah, it doesn't have to,
No.
as you said,
Yeah.
for practical reasons, physics, and money too.
Money is probably the big one.
Yeah, exactly. So it's wasteful to invest in humanoid robots. 인간처럼 생긴 로봇에 투자하는 게 낭비다. 이렇게 얘기를 했어요.
Yeah, wasteful, because waste, meaning trash or garbage, something that is of no use. If it's wasteful, that means you're using resources or money or time sort of carelessly or inefficiently, and it's unnecessary.
Something full 그러면은 뭐 많이 어떠하다 이 느낌이 있잖아요.
Yeah.
Beautiful 그러면 아주 아름다운 거고요. 근데 여기서 wasteful 그러면은 아주 낭비다. 정말 돈 버리는 거다. 저는 여기 투자하지 말라는 얘기를 하면서 왜 그러냐면은 앞으로의 로봇들은 인간의 형태를 본따서 하기보다는 좀 바퀴가 달리고 팔도 여러 개 있고 뭐 여러 가지
Sensors.
센서도 하고 이런 모양으로 가는 게 훨씬 더 미래지향적인 그런 로봇이 될 것이기 때문에 굳이 인간처럼 생긴 로봇에 투자를 하는 것은 그렇게 권장하지 않는다고 합니다. So it says that future robots will favor things that don't look like humans.
Right. Instead of these humanoid forms, if you favor something, you're preferring it.
Yeah.
Or you support that, or it gives you an advantage to one person over others, right?
Favor, it's a verb, right?
It's a verb. It's used as a verb here. It's spelled F-A-V-O-R. I imagine in the UK it's F-A-V-O-U-R.
That's right.
Yep.
Spelling is a little bit different. But the pronunciation is pretty much the same. The
Yeah.
R might be a little bit different. I say favor.
Right.
You say
Favor.
similar.
Similar.
Yeah.
Like you can ask a parent if you have multiple kids, which child
Do
do
you
you favor?
favor? Oh.
Now, on the record, when I ask parents this question, they say, "Oh, I love my kids all the same." But usually they do have a favorite. It seems like, but
그래. 누구를 선호하시나요?
Yeah.
And the same could be asked to a kid. Out of
Which
your mom
parent?
and dad, which parent do you favor?
the impossible question.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. 그래요. 누굴 더 선호하느냐. 그래서 이제 선호하는 사람이나 선호하는 물건이 favorite가 되는 거겠죠. 스펠링은 영국에서는 U 하나 더 추가합니다. 호주도 마찬가지고 캐나다에서는 제가 알기로는 넣을 때도 있고 안 넣을 때도 있다고 들었어요.
In this case, I believe Canadians do.
아하,
Yes.
오케이. 미국은 안 넣죠. U가 안 들어가요. 자, 다시 한번 제가 읽어보겠습니다. Renowned roboticist Rodney Brooks warns that investing billions in humanoid robot startups is wasteful, predicting future robots will favor wheels, multiple arms, and specialized sensors over human forms. Here's our next headline.
The Huajiang Canyon Bridge in southwest China has officially opened to traffic, setting a new record for the tallest and longest spanning bridge in the world.
중국 남서부에 위치한 화장 대협곡 대교가 공식 개통함에 따라 세계에서 가장 높은 다리이자 교량 기둥 간 거리가 최대인 다리라는 기록을 세웠습니다.
Yeah, this bridge is massive.
Yeah, I've seen
Sue.
pictures.
It's a 625 meter drop. So if you well, heaven forbid, jump from the bridge, it would be 625 meters above ground. The actual span of the bridge itself is more than 1.4 kilometers long.
Wow.
And it took 3 years to complete. And I mentioned the height of the bridge because the vertical drop itself is the highest in the world. But
Yeah.
in terms of the actual bridge structure, there's a bridge much taller in France that measures 343
Got it.
meters. So just a technicality there. But obviously China has invested over the years heavily in sort of these major infrastructure projects, and it marks this sort of rapid economic growth. It's a symbol of just how fast the country has grown economically.
그래요. 지면으로부터 얼마나 높이 올라가 있느냐를 봤을 때는 가장 높이 올라가 있는 다리라고 합니다. 멀리서 찍은 사진을 봤더니 정말 멋있기도 하고 좀 무서워 보이기도
Yeah.
하고 그렇더라고요.
Right.
이게 600 몇 미터 위에 있다고요?
625 meters.
지상 600 25m에 있는 다리입니다. 그래서 상당히 높이 올라가 있어요. 그렇다고 해서 다리 자체만으로 봤을 때의 높이가 제일 큰 거는 아니고요. 그거는 파리에 있는 다리가 조금 더 높은 다리도 있다고 하는데 지면으로부터 얼마나 떨어져 있느냐. 이거는 이제 기록을 세웠습니다.
Yeah, as they say, it's an engineering marvel.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it looks
pretty amazing.
Okay. So it has officially opened to traffic.
Yeah, if you open to traffic here we're specifically we're talking about vehicles, right?
Yeah.
But you could be talking about foot traffic as well. So either allowing vehicles or pedestrians to use a sort of new, or it could have been previously closed, but sort of route. Yeah.
통행이 허용되는 게 be open to traffic인데요. 차량 통행을 여기서 의미하고 있지만 traffic가 이제 인간이 걸어가는 것도 traffic가 될 수 있고 우리 인터넷상에서도 사람들이 많이 몰려들면 그것도 traffic라고 부를 수 있죠. So traffic can be all sorts of things when a lot of people, cars, internet users, they gather together.
And shut down internet sites a lot of times
That's
too, right?
Exactly. So it has opened to traffic. The bridge is now officially open. It is the longest spanning bridge in the world.
Yeah, so to span, S-P-A-N, means you're extending or you're covering a sort of side-to-side sort of distance. When we talk about a person's wingspan, if you spread your arms out, it's measuring from one tip of your finger to the other tip. So here, when we're talking about a bridge, it's the distance, the full extent from one side to the other.
Eagles, when they spread their wings out,
Yep.
their wingspan is, I would say, it's quite long. 2 meters, maybe in some cases.
Yeah, in
1 meter, I don't know.
In that case, it's literally a
Yeah.
wingspan because
Yeah.
you're measuring the wings. But even for people, you would call that a wingspan, right?
Is it right that our wingspan is the same as our height?
I've heard that before as well. I
that's
think it's pretty
interesting.
close. Yeah, it's like the distance from your wrist to your elbow is also your foot size.
yeah, that's
right?
what they say.
Yeah. Or your
Oh,
neck
yes.
is half the size of your waist.
Really?
So did your mom ever, when you went to go buy pants, your mom never put the pants up against your neck?
No.
So if it folds around, it's another sort
Is that what people do?
Yeah, that's what my mom used to
I
do.
see. I didn't know that. No.
So just to get a general estimate, I think.
And I think some of those are quite accurate, actually.
Yeah.
그래요. span이라는 것은 한쪽 손가락 끝에서 다른 손가락 끝까지 쫙 펼쳤을 때 길이를 얘기하거든요. wingspan.
Yeah.
span이라는 것 자체가 이렇게 아주 길게 늘어뜨린 건데 longest spanning bridge 그러면은 이제 가장 긴 다리라는 의미가 되겠죠.
Yeah, and don't confuse that with span, which I think is short for spandex.
Oh, right,
I think
right.
in Korean, when you talk about leggings, right, it's sort of spelled the same
Yeah.
way. But span is not used in English. No.
맞아요. 자, 다시 한번 제가 읽어보겠습니다. The Huajiang Canyon Bridge in southwest China has officially opened to traffic, setting a new record for the tallest and longest spanning bridge in the world. Now here's our final headline.
A popular Egyptian wrestler has added another extraordinary feat under his belt after pulling a 700-ton ship across the Red Sea using only a rope held in his teeth.
이집트의 한 유명 레슬러가 치아의 힘만으로 홍해에서 700톤에 달하는 거대한 선박을 끄는 도전에 성공해 자신이 보유한 다수의 기록에 또 하나를 추가했습니다. Okay, so give us a picture of, what he did, how he pulled this ship with his teeth.
Yeah, so essentially, basically what he did, as the headline suggests, is with a rope connected to this ship, he pulled a 700-ton ship across the ocean. He's not a stranger.
So he was on the shore, I
He's
would
on the shore,
imagine.
yes.
Yeah, he's not on another boat or anything.
No,
Right.
nothing like that.
Yeah.
So he's no stranger to sort of these feats of strength, pulling trains before he's pulled locomotives.
Wow.
4 years ago, he pulled a truck before, but this latest feat, he's trying to get this into the Guinness World Records as well. But he's become a sort of legend in Egypt, where children have a growing popularity towards him as well. But as a child, he'd carry his friends for fun and haul sort of heavy loads, and this became sort of his passion, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Kabonga pulled this massive ship with his teeth.
Yeah.
The rope was linked to the ship, or it was tied around the ship, I guess. It was not tied around the ship. I guess it had a pole or a pillar or something.
Well, ships normally have these moors that you tie ropes to.
That makes
anyways,
sense then.
So,
Yeah, from the picture I have, the ship is very tiny, so I can't exactly see.
It's
where
only
the rope is.
700 tons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not a big ship. But still, only 700 tons?
Well, yeah, I meant that facetiously.
Okay, all right. So it is a big ship.
Yeah, it is a big ship,
yeah,
I think.
All right. And he pulled the rope with his teeth, and he pulled the boat onto the shore. And he now has this record.
Yeah.
정말 대단한 기록이에요.
Yeah, and we might add children do not attempt this at home.
Course,
right? Do not copy.
네. 지금 아까 누구죠? 카벙가 씨 같은 경우에는 원래도 레슬러고 그 다음에 굉장히 건강한 이런 치아를 가지고 있나 봐요.
You must have a good dental plan.
그래서 일반인들은 당연히 할 수 없는 일입니다. 그래서 치아만으로 선박에 묶여 있는 끈을 이렇게 당겨서 그래서 이게 끌어들였어요. 끌어당겼어요.
Yeah.
700톤이나 되는 그런 거대한 선박을 잘 어떻게 이렇게 움직여서 기록을 세웠습니다. 이걸 영어로는 it's a feat라고 해요.
Yeah, so feat, F-E-A-T, not like the things on your legs. A feat is an impressive achievement, right? That usually requires skill or courage or sort of effort here in this case.
그렇죠. 그래서 대단한 업적을 F-E-A-T, feat라고 하고요. And if something is under your belt,
Yeah, this is an idiomatic expression, right? If something's under your belt, you've achieved something or you've experienced and you've sort of secured it for future use or future success.
You have years, decades of journalistic work and experience under your belt.
Exactly.
그렇죠. 이런 경험이 있다라고 할 때도 우리가 under your belt를 정말 많이 쓰는데요. experience란 단어 쓰면서도 이제 someone has this much experience under their belt 이렇게 말할 수도 있고요.
Right.
여기서는 뭐라고 하고 있죠? Another feat under his belt.
Yeah, because he's done sort of similar achievements in the past. A lot of actors will have dozens of films under their belt, meaning they've acted in many films.
이런 이력, 이런 경험 그런 것도 소유하고 있다 이런 의미로 someone has something under their belt. Normally, you would use this expression for someone who has a lot of experience, not someone who's green, a rookie. You wouldn't say, oh, I have 3 months experience under my belt. Not really.
But you would have to, in context, you would have to explain in that case. If you're just graduating from college, you could say, I have a couple of years of internships under my belt,
sure.
but I'm looking for something more full time. You could say.
내 벨트 아래에 있는 이러한 것들, 이제 경력을 얘기할 때 쓰는 표현입니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼까요? A popular Egyptian wrestler has added another extraordinary feat under his belt after pulling a 700-ton ship across the Red Sea using only a rope held in his teeth. Well, that's it for the headlines with Shane Harm.
More than 30 million Koreans are expected to travel both domestically and abroad during this year's extended Chuseok holiday.
길어진 올해 추석 연휴에 3천만 명이 넘는 국민이 국내외로 이동할 것으로 예측됐습니다. So because we have National Foundation Day and of course 추석 and then Hangul Day as well. And they're all, right next to each other.
Packed together. And even that Friday, I think, that is not a holiday.
Yeah.
It's going to be taken off as a holiday by a lot of people.
If you can get that day off, then it'll be a really long holiday. I know some people will still be working on that day.
Yeah.
But in general, the government has decided to monitor the roads from the 2nd, which is right before the holiday, until the 12th, which is right at the end of the break.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good opportunity for a lot of people to get away, either to see their family or get away from their family. It's up to them.
Whichever it is.
But we're looking at 32.18 million people that are expected to travel over this big holiday between October 2nd and October 12th.
Right.
The big peak is going to come, of course, on the Chuseok day itself on October 6th. They think there's going to be 9.33 million people on the move on that day, and most of them are going to be in their cars. So if you're heading on the road, look, there could be a few traffic jams as usual. That said, the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport are implementing special traffic measures as they always do, but it's going to be for this full holiday period because they expect there to be a lot of 왔다갔다, a lot of back and forth in and out of Seoul and all around the country.
그래요. 2일부터 12일을 국토부가 추석 연휴 특별 교통 대책 기간으로 지정을 했습니다. 그래서 이 기간 동안에 대략적으로 한 3천만 명이 넘는 우리 국민이 국내외로 이동할 것으로 지금 예상하고 있어요. 6일날 가장 이동량이 많을 거라고 좀 전에 얘기를 해주셨는데 운전하시는 분들도 굉장히 많으실 거고.
네.
But we are also looking at people traveling overseas as well. So it's not just in Korea.
But I think we're seeing a lot of people traveling domestically and traveling by car.
Yeah.
Luckily, I'm taking the train and I'm traveling on the 5th, not the 6th.
Oh, all right. So traveling domestically is what you said just there.
Yes, traveling domestically means you're traveling inside of the country as opposed to traveling internationally, meaning you're crossing borders, you're going into another country. So we use this term domestic or domestically when we're talking about imports, exports, travel, all sorts of things, meaning it's only to do within the country.
And that's why at the airport you have domestic and then international. You'll see those words.
Yes.
Really, really big letters. And it's, for the domestic flights and the international flights, right?
So it's a common term. You're going to have to remember this one because if you're traveling inside of any country, this is a word you need.
Yes. 국내라는 의미, domestic. 그래서 국내에서 국내로 domestically라는 표현이 나오고 있는데요. 지금 여기서 부사로 쓰고 있는 거죠. People will be traveling domestically and abroad or internationally.
Yes.
국내외 여행객들 굉장히 많을 거고요. 그다음에 이번 연휴를 우리가 이제 좀 통칭을 해가지고 영어로 extended 추석 holiday라고 부르는 걸 좀 설명해 주시겠어요?
Sure. Well, Sue, how long should a Chuseok holiday be?
3 days.
Yes, 3 days. However, if it falls on a weekend, we have a slight extension. The holiday might be extended to 5 days or 4 days. This time we have a really long holiday. It's been really extended to, well, depending on whether you've got Friday off.
Yeah.
We're talking 9, 10, 11, 12 days.
Technically speaking, this whole break is not just for Chuseok.
No.
However, as you said, because it's been extended for this and that other reason, whether it be the other public holidays or if you just have a day off from work, the Chuseok break, it feels like has been elongated.
Exactly. And extended, we're going to use generally either for time or for distance. These are the two times when we're going to use it. So we're talking about a period is extended or a distance or an area is extended.
Oftentimes when we have a Monday off, for example, we'll say it's an extended weekend.
Yes. In the UK, we would normally just say a long weekend. Though. That's the more common expression. But yes, we can say we're having an extended break, an extended weekend.
Yeah. So anything that's extended has been lengthened in time in this case.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about a break that is normally 3 days for Chuseok.
Yes.
But this time around with the other public holidays and, as we said earlier on, if you do get the Friday after Chuseok off, if you're lucky, then you'll have a long, 10 days or something like that?
Something like that. I'm going to be working, so I'm not sure myself, but it's a long time.
A lot of people will be working, so you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Not everyone will have the whole, week off. But nonetheless, the government will be looking at that period to make sure that the traffic situation isn't too bad.
Of course.
And that's what we're talking about here.
And a quick shout out for National Foundation Day, my favourite holiday of the year.
Oh, is it?
I love the myth of
love
Dangun.
the tale, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
It's one of my favourite Korean stories, and it's a great legend of how Korea started.
What do you like? What is it about the story that you love so much?
It's the transformational aspect, the bear and the tiger going into the cave with the mugwort and the garlic, and the idea of perseverance. Like the tortoise and the hare, slow and steady wins the race. The bear wins out because she is willing to take the time and put the energy into, committing to the task.
Yeah, and it really speaks for how the Korean people are as well. We're very good at persevering.
I think you can put Koreans often into two categories, either bears or tigers.
아하, there you go. 그래요. 자, extended holiday라고 하면은 연장된 연휴라는 의미가 되겠습니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. More than 30 million Koreans are expected to travel both domestically and abroad during this year's extended Chuseok holiday. Let's move on to the second headline.
Korea's power demand surged to an unprecedented high on August 25th amid a prolonged heat wave that saw average summer temperatures soaring to an all-time high of 25.7 degrees Celsius.
올해는 국내 여름 평균 기온이 사상 최고치인 25.7도로 집계될 정도로 폭염이 길었던 가운데 8월 25일에는 최대 전력 수요도 역대 1위를 기록한 것으로 나타났습니다. Okay, so now we have more of the official stats regarding this past summer, which we finally, have behind us.
Yes, and it was a record-breaking summer, both in terms of temperature and in terms of electricity used. So first of all,
yeah.
temperature. If we look at the averages from June to August, it was 25.7 degrees, and that beats last year's 25.6 degrees. So that's the highest ever. It's unprecedented. And then also this use of electricity on August 25th was a record high, 104.1 gigawatts. And we're going to see how this affects us in the future, of course. What's interesting is there's been some shuffling about of ministries. And one thing is the industry ministry who was overseeing energy policy, that task is now being transferred to the environment ministry. Oh. So they'll be handling that from now on. And I think they're going to have to cope with the possibility of increased energy use over the next few years and more unprecedented records being set.
올해가 작년보다 덥다라고 말씀하시는 분들 많이 계셨는데요. 이제 데이터가 그걸 뒷받침해 주네요. 올해 평균 기온이 작년보다 높았습니다. 작년에는 25.6도였는데 이번엔 25.7도였어요. 6월부터 8월에 평균 온도를 얘기하고 있는 거고 그 다음에는 이제 전력 수요도 상당히 높았죠. 가장 높은 104.1 기가와트를 기록했다고 합니다. 그 일자는 8월 25일이었고요. Let's have a look at unprecedented.
It's never happened before.
Yeah.
If something sets a precedent or is a precedent, that means it's the first time it's happened.
Yeah.
But if something is unprecedented, it's not happened. So we talk about something setting a precedent is unprecedented because it's never happened before. It's the first time, and we will refer to it from now on because that's what it is.
So it means that it has never happened before, but it's a simpler way of saying it, to say it is unprecedented.
I would say never happened before is maybe simpler for some English speakers.
Yeah, that is the sort of easier way of saying it,
Yes.
but it's just a little bit longer maybe.
It is. So unprecedented is shorter in number of letters, but never seen before is maybe easier in terms of language.
Absolutely.
What an unprecedented explanation.
And prolonged.
It was also a prolonged explanation. It was longer than it needed to be. It was unexpectedly long.
Yeah.
So we had extended that we can use for time. Prolonged we can use for time. We won't use it for distance.
True.
But the difference between extended and prolonged is extended can be expected. It's what we think it's going to be. Whereas prolonged, it's unexpected. It shouldn't have been that long. It's going on longer than it was going to, perhaps.
So then, I guess for this Chuseok holiday, would it be a little awkward to say it's a prolonged Chuseok holiday?
Yes, it would be. If suddenly there were an extra 2 days added to it, you could call it a prolonged holiday.
Because
but
it's not unexpected.
Exactly, it's not unexpected. So, for example, if you go on vacation, but the weather's so bad that your plane won't take off back home and it takes another 2 days, you could call that a prolonged vacation.
Got it.
Because it's unexpected.
Ah, interesting. Prolonged and extended are similar in meaning in that the time becomes longer or lengthened. However, the difference is extended is normally anticipated and prolonged is not expected. Not anticipated.
And we're often using it in a more negative sense.
그래요. 둘 다 오래 지속된다는 뜻은 있지만 좀 나쁘게 해석을 하면은 prolonged는 좀 질질 끈다 이런 느낌까지도 있을 수 있어요. 예상하지 못했고 생각보다 더 오래 가는 이번 여름 같은 경우도 그래서 prolonged summer heat라고 표현을 한 거죠. Not extended summer heat.
No
one planned it.
Is summer over? I'm not sure.
I think it is, no?
Okay, I thought it was still prolonged.
Well, in the afternoons, I have to say, it's still very warm.
Yes.
But in the mornings and at night, it's definitely a lot chillier.
Thank goodness we're getting rid of that prolonged heat.
Yes. 자, 그러면 다시 한번 제가 읽어보겠습니다. Korea's power demand surged to an unprecedented high on August 25th amid a prolonged heat wave that saw average summer temperatures soaring to an all-time high of 25.7 degrees Celsius.
A new report warns that ocean acidification has passed a safe threshold, which could threaten fisheries, sea ecosystems, and the global climate.
전 세계 바다의 산성도가 이미 안전 기준선을 초과했다는 연구 결과가 나오면서 어업과 해양 생태계 및 지구 기후에 대한 경고음이 커지고 있습니다. Tell us more.
They've been warning us for years. This has been on the cards. They've said this is the boundary that we should not cross, and if we cross this threshold, this boundary, we're going to be in danger. What's happened is it's the greenhouse gas emissions, it's fossil fuels. They've increased the acidity of the world's oceans, and now that acidity has passed this safe threshold. And that means the death of sea creatures, of shellfish. It means the death of coral, and also it means that our fight against climate change becomes that much harder. It's not the only one. We've also had dangerous levels of chemical pollution. We've had the warming atmosphere. We have changes to the nutrient cycle. These have all been thresholds we've crossed. This is just the latest. But the thing is, we all depend on the ocean. We all depend on the sea for all sorts of products. And it's not just for food, but it's also the ocean absorbs carbon dioxide and also helps to moderate global warming. We're in trouble, Sue, if we don't do something.
Right. 바다의 산성도가 언급이 되고 있어요. Let's have a look at that expression there. The ocean acidification.
Yes, meaning it's becoming more acid. So when we talk about in chemistry, acid and alkaline. The two friends at opposite ends of the scale, as it were. And yes, the acidity of the ocean is becoming stronger and stronger, which means it's harder for some sea creatures to live there.
산성도 얘기할 때 우리가 이제 acidity라고 하는데요. 지금 이제 산성화가 된다라는 의미로 acidification이라는 표현이 나오고 있어요. 그러니까 점점 더 산성이 되는 것을 말하는데 그게 지금 안전한 그 기준을 넘어섰다는 거죠. So it's past a threshold.
Yes, and a threshold, synonym I've also used just before, is boundary, but it's like a limit of some kind that either we need to cross or we shouldn't cross. So, for example, in some sports, there's a weight threshold. You have to be over a certain weight or under a certain weight to compete in certain categories of certain sports. Threshold, the old meaning, used to be the doorway from one room to another or from outside the house to inside the house. So it's a boundary, it's a limit of some kind.
원래는 문턱이라는 뜻이었는데요. 지금 어떤 기준치나 한계점이라는 의미로 써서 safe threshold, 안전한 그런 기준선, 그것을 넘어섰다라는 헤드라인이네요. 다시 읽어보겠습니다. A new report warns that ocean acidification has passed a safe threshold, which could threaten fisheries, sea ecosystems, and the global climate. Now let's move on to the next headline.
Archaeologists in Israel have uncovered a hoard of 97 pure gold coins dating from about 1,400 years ago, along with dozens of gold jewelry fragments inlaid with pearls, semi-precious stones and glass.
이스라엘에서 1400년 전 유물로 추정되는 순금 주화 97개와 함께 진주, 준보석, 유리 등으로 장식된 금 장신구 수십 점이 발굴됐습니다. What do we know?
Well, it's really exciting. That's what we do know, Sue, because this hoard of coins is one of the largest that they've discovered on dry land in Israel. And it spans not just one emperor's lifetime, but, several. It goes from Emperor Justin I all the way through to Emperor Heraclius. So from 518 CE all the way through to 613 CE. So we've got all of these different coins from different eras. It's from a really exciting place. It was an important Christian town at the time. And it means that we're going to get information about all these different periods periods of time. We're going to get a little bit more of an insight into the cultures of those times. And, well, I hope that we'll get to see them all in a museum one day.
Wow. So not only is this from around 1400 years ago, but the jewelry, the history of it spans about 100 years.
Exactly, yes. So we're not just getting one snapshot, we're getting several snapshots of the culture at the time.
Yeah, how exciting for archaeologists. Let's have a look at a hoard of something.
Yes, H-O-A-R-D as opposed to an H-O-R-D-E. Hoard and hoard. An H-O-R-D-E is a large group of barbarians or monsters or wild beasts, but an H-O-A-R-D, that kind of hoard, is a large amount of valuable things, often treasure. I think of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and Smaug the dragon with his hoard of gold, that big mountain of gold he keeps in his cave. So here, it's a large amount. In this case, yes, there is gold, but it's also jewelry as well.
Yeah.
So a big amount of valuable things.
다량의 뭐뭐뭐를 얘기할 때 a hoard of something 이렇게 얘기를 하고요. Can we use this as a verb as well, to hoard something?
Yes, we talk about hoarding something. So some people are real hoarders. I'm a book hoarder, and I have to really try and throw some books out, give them away, because I have too many.
Yeah, do you remember during COVID,
Yeah.
some people would go and hoard toilet paper?
Yes. They would buy bulk goods, and maybe to the detriment of others. They would hoard them. They were hoarders.
그렇죠. 다량으로 구매하다, 뭐 사재기하다라는 의미로 동사로 쓸 수도 있어요. 근데 여기는 명사입니다. 다량의 그러니까 여기선 보물, 보석 이런 것들 다 포함이 되어 있죠. Now we're also looking at gold jewelry fragments inlaid with pearls.
Yes.
And other precious jewels.
Yeah, so if jewelry or other items like decorative furniture, for example, are inlaid with something, it means that space has been carved out of them so that something can be put in. So it could be pearls put into gold, or it could be mother of pearl put into wood. There's all kinds of ways you can inlay something, but it's about decorating something with another material by putting it into a hollow, into a slight groove, so it lies flat with the surface, usually.
So these gold pieces, they have precious stones inside the gold, or pearls inside the gold.
Yeah, so you can see them from the top. They're not covered, they're uncovered, but they lay flat.
그렇죠. 자, 지금 얘기하게 있는 게 뭐냐면은 이런 진주라든지 준보석이 박혀있는 금 조각입니다.
Yeah.
박혀있다가 여기서는 it is inlaid with blah blah blah.
Yeah, the easiest example, I think, for every Korean is think about your grandmother's jewelry box or sewing box, because she may have had a box inlaid with mother of pearl. It's a very traditional, very common way of decorating boxes here in Korea.
그래요. 우리나라에서 그 자개가 들어가 있는 보석함들 참 많죠. 그때 그 자개를 mother of pearl, 그리고 이제 그것도 어떻게 보면 박혀 있는 뭐 이런 느낌이기 때문에 영어로 표현을 한다면은 these treasure boxes in Korea, or these not treasure boxes.
We call them lacquer boxes. They're
lacquer
often
boxes.
inlaid lacquer boxes.
Oh, they are inlaid with mother of pearl. All right. Well, here's the headline again. Archaeologists in Israel have uncovered a hoard of 97 pure gold coins dating from about 1400 years ago, along with dozens of gold jewelry fragments inlaid with pearls, semi-precious stones, and glass. Now let's move on to the final headline.
Seoul has set a new Guinness World Record for the largest reading relay, reciting lines from poet Yoon Dong-ju's Sky, Wind, Stars and Poems for 10 hours and 12 minutes.
서울시가 윤동주 시인의 유고시집 하늘과 바람과 별과 시의 낭독 릴레이 행사를 개최해 이를 10시간 12분 만에 완료하며 세계 최대 독서 릴레이 기네스북 기록을 세웠습니다. Wow, I love this. Had I known, I would have loved to have taken part.
Me too. Unfortunately, I was performing in Incheon that day, so I would have been unable to go anyway. But it's such a brilliant thing. We're talking about thousands of people, 3,532 people got together and said, all right, let's recite these poems.
One sentence each.
Yeah, and it's absolutely brilliant. It started at 7 a.m. and you had groups of 100 or 200 participants waiting, and then one by one they would get up and they would read one or two lines, and then the next person, and then once they finished the entire 176-page book, well, they started all over again.
Yeah, I think people gathered from 7, but the actual reading started at 8.
Oh, excuse me, yes.
And ended at around 6:30 in the evening.
Yeah, almost 12 hours of continuous recitation of this brilliant poetry. And if you haven't read Sky, Wind, Stars and Poems, you really do need to, because it's a brilliant, brilliant anthology.
그래요. 정말 많은 3,532명이 참가를 했습니다. 사실 더 많은 분들이 계셨는데요. 이제 전체 다 한 문장씩만 읽는 것이 이제 어떻게 보면 목표였기 때문에 이렇게 3,532번째 참가자까지 읽었다라고 합니다. 그리고 10시간 12분이 걸렸고요. 윤동주 시인의 시집 하늘과 바람과 별과 시를 한 문장씩 이렇게 같이 릴레이 돌아가면서 읽은 거죠. 우리 개주하듯이. 그래서 읽기 릴레이를 하게 된 거예요. 릴레이가 지금 말한 것처럼 우리 달리기 할 때는 그 바톤 건네주는 그 개주 그거죠?
Yeah, we talk about relay races. To participate in a relay, we would think of sports. We think of the Olympics or school sports where, yes, you have a team and only one person moves at one time.
That's
and
right.
then tags the other person and that person moves and so on and so forth. You go one after the other. But you can have lots of different kinds of relays. For example, I remember seeing footage of villages where there was a fire in the olden days and they would have a water bucket relay. They would pass the bucket from one to the other so they could quench the fire. All kinds of things, but a relay is always going to be one person at a time, going from one to another to another.
And this year marks the 80th year of liberation and also the 80th year since Yoon Dong-ju passed away, which
Yes.
is why it's so significant and why this was held.
Yeah, and I'm glad to say that there are a number of English translations of his poems, and they
Yeah.
are absolutely brilliant in Korean and in English.
Absolutely. What did the people do? They recited the poems sentence by sentence.
Yes, and to recite a poem or recite anything means to read it out loud. So we often hear this phrase being used in schools because part of your job at school sometimes is to recite text. A recitation is when you recite text. It can also be when you play music, but you're playing music from a score. So it's a kind of reading anyway.
Yeah, it is. 낭독한다는 의미가 될 수도 있고요. 외워서 읽는 거죠. 암송한다라는 의미가 될 수도 있습니다. 자, 그럼 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. Seoul has set a new Guinness World Record for the largest reading relay, reciting lines from poet Yoon Dong-ju's Sky, Wind, Stars and Poems for 10 hours and 12 minutes. Well, that's it for the headlines with Paul Matthews.
A new report shows that nearly 40% of Korea's retired population live in relative poverty, meaning they survive on less than half of the country's median income, the highest level among OECD member countries.
우리나라 은퇴 연령 국민 중 중위소득의 절반에도 미치지 못하는 금액으로 살아가는 사람들의 비율을 뜻하는 상대적 빈곤율이 40%에 육박해 경제협력개발기구 OECD 회원국 중에서도 가장 높은 수준이라는 조사 결과가 나왔습니다. Now, Karen, this is a list you don't want to be at the top of.
Oh no. So this is something that I think, lawmakers, the government need to pay attention to because it seems the social safety net is failing. And we need to pay attention to how the elderly and older adults are really doing because, when we think of our country, when we think of South Korea, we think of, we're one of the top 10 most economical, powerhouses in the world, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So this is according to Statistics Korea's 2025 statistics on the elderly report, and it said that 39.8% of people that are aged 65 and older lived on less than half the median income in 2023, and this was up slightly from the previous year. And the country's senior population reached 15.14 million, or 20.3% of the total, officially making, of course, South Korea a super-aged society. We've been hearing this for a very long time. So households headed by older adults numbered 6.19 million, and their average net assets stood at 465.9 million won in 2024. So nearly 58% of seniors aged 65 to 79 reported wanting to continue working to cover their expenses, while only 35.5% said that they were satisfied with their current lives, and that was below the national average of 40%.
Yeah, well, in this super age society, we're going to continue to see more and more stats regarding the older generation or the I guess retired or over 65s in the future as well, because they do take up a considerable part of our demographic here. But as you said, it's very sad to see that 4 in 10 of the retired population live below the sort of average wage. So they live in relative poverty, I think was the expression used there. All right, let's have a look at the retired population and what that means.
Right. So the retired population, it's referring to a group of people who they've withdrawn from the workforce, so they've stopped working. And this is typically due to age. It could be other factors as well, but they now rely on pensions or other income sources rather than their working income.
population 인구 앞에 retired, 은퇴한이 들어서요. 은퇴 인구라고 하면 되겠네요. So 65 and above, that's what we're looking at when we say retired population. 4 out of 10 of the retired population in Korea live in relative poverty. Now, for those of us who don't know what that means, and initially most of us might not know what that means, there's an explanation. So this means they survive on less than half of Korea's median income. Let's have a look at income.
Income. So income is the money received, especially on a regular basis. It could be like a monthly income or a weekly income for work, or it could also be through investments as well.
Yeah, absolutely. income 그러면은 여기선 소득이라는 뜻으로 median income 하면은 중위 소득인데요. 우리나라 평균 그러니까 중위 소득의 절반에도 못 미치는 금액으로 살아가고 있는 이 은퇴 연령 인구가 10명 중에 4명이나 되더라. 그래서 안타깝게도 이런 리스트 중에서 지금 OECD에서 상당히 높은 순위에 올라가 있는데요. 이런 리스트에서는 낮은 순위일수록 좋죠. 네, 빈곤율이 높은 게 순위가 높은 거니까. 예, 그렇습니다. 점점 더 말씀하신 대로 우리가 더 신경을 많이 써야 되는 부분이 되겠죠. 초고령 국가로서. All right, well, here's the headline one more time. A new report shows that nearly 40% of Korea's retired population live in relative poverty, meaning they survive on less than half of the country's median income, the highest level among OECD member countries. Let's move on to the second headline.
The Korea Aerospace Administration has announced that the 4th launch of the country's homegrown Nuri space rocket will take place on November 27th from the country's Naro Space Center in Goheung in South Jeolla Province.
한국형 발사체 누리호의 네 번째 발사가 오는 11월 27일 전라남도 고흥에 위치한 나로 우주센터에서 진행될 예정이라고 우주항공청이 발표했습니다. All right, so good news when it comes to space exploration and efforts in that field. Tell us more.
Yeah, so space is the new frontier, definitely.
Sure.
So it's set for November 27th, so that's next month. And the launch, it's carrying a next generation mid-sized satellite as its main payload. Will lift off from the NATO Space Center in Goheung between 12:54 a.m. and 1:14 a.m. And of course, the exact time will be confirmed the day before. You have have to take a look at the weather conditions on that day. And a backup window has been scheduled from November 28th to December 4th. In addition to the main satellite, the rocket will carry 12 smaller satellites expected to arrive at the Space Center by the end of this month.
This rocket launch is going to be held in the wee hours of the day, very early or late, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, and according to the Korea Aerospace Administration administrator, they said that it will be the first nudie launch since the agency's establishment, and they pledged careful preparation to ensure its success.
이제 메인 새틀라이트의 주 궤도를 감안해서 발사 시간이 이렇게 새벽 시간대네요. 새벽 1시 정도에 발사가 될 것으로 예상이 되는 그런 이제 누리호입니다. 이게 밤에 발사하는 거는 또 처음이라고.
Yeah, it is the first time. Yep.
그래요. 자, 누리호는 homegrown space rocket인데요.
Yep.
What is a homegrown thing?
So we use this word when something has been made with our own, so Korea's own technology.
Yeah.
So it means that it belongs to one's own particular locality or country. But when we say like homegrown produce, it can also mean that it's been grown or produced in, it could be your own garden or it could be your country as well.
Literally grown somewhere, right? 그래요. 식물 같은 경우에는 정말 이제 내 집에서 재배하고 기른 그런 식물이 될 수도 있고 아니면은 그냥 우리나라의 자국의 뭐뭐뭐 할 때도 homegrown. So it could be a homegrown rocket, a homegrown person, like a sports star, for example. The homegrown can be used in various situations to talk about things or people. What about to take place?
To take place, so it means to happen or to occur, especially when we're talking about something that's in a deliberate, controlled, or organized sort of way, or it can mean to come into being.
To take place. 그러면 뭔가가 진행된다라는 뜻이 있죠. So this space launch will take place on November 27th. It will happen on November 27th. Well, here's the headline again. The Korea Aerospace Administration has announced that the fourth launch of the country's homegrown Nuri space rocket will take place on November 27th from the country's Naro Space Center in Kohung in South Jeolla Province.
China is expecting around 2.4 billion journeys during the upcoming 8-day Golden Week holiday starting today.
오늘부터 시작되는 중국 최대 명절 국경절과 중추절 연휴 기간 동안 여행과 고향 방문으로 인한 중국 전체 인구 유동량이 연 인원 약 24억 명에 이를 것으로 보입니다. Okay, so we have similar holidays, China and of course us here in Korea. But we have a slightly longer holiday this time around because we have Hangulnar as well.
Yes.
And then some people might get the Friday after that off too. But nonetheless, in China, they have from today up until, I believe it's next, is it Thursday or Wednesday off?
It's an 8-day holiday.
8 days. Yeah, tell us more.
Yeah. So they're expecting 2.4 billion journeys, and it's during the upcoming 8-day National Day and Mid-Autumn Festival holiday, and it's a 3.2% increase from last year, so more people are going to be traveling on the roads. So they say that cars are going to be the main mode of travel, as in other years, with 1.87 billion trips expected by road, and they're going to have toll-free access to be provided for vehicles with 7 or fewer seats. So Wednesday, which is the holiday's first day, is expected to be busiest with over 340 million journeys. Domestic tourism is set to boost the economy with 10.2 million flights booked so far and strong demand for destinations within China, such as popular tourism spots like Hainan, Xinjiang, Tibet, and Inner Mongolia. Car rental bookings for multi-destination trips, they say, have risen 93%. With major cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou seeing more visitors than even last year. So they're also adding that substantial increases in Chinese tourists traveling abroad they're seeing that trend as well, especially to countries like here, South Korea, as well as Russia and Southeast Asia, following new visa arrangements.
So just to clarify, it is from today, the 1st of October, until next Wednesday, the 8th of October. That's the whole Golden Week holiday that China will be having. A lot of people will be traveling both domestically and internationally, and even within the country, because it's a long period. They'll probably be traveling multiple times. And so the total number of travels that we'll be seeing is roughly, I think you said,
2.4 billion
2.4
journeys.
billion.
Yeah.
그래요. 연 인원 약 24억 명에 이를 것으로 보인다고 하는데요. 우리가 보통 연 인원이라고 하면은 그 일수까지 계산을 해가지고
Yeah.
총 이제 여행을 하는 인원수지만 이게 중복되는 부분이
Of
분명히
course, right.
있습니다. 그래서
I
보통
mean-
연 인원 하면 예를 들자면은 뭐 10명이 5일에 걸쳐서 일을 했으면은 이제 연 인원 50명 우리가 이렇게 말을 하는 것처럼
Right.
중국 내에서 이제 여행 여러 번 하시는 분들도 계실 것이고 뭐 국내 국외 여러 여행이 있을 텐데 그
It's a
인원
long holiday.
다 계산했을
Yeah.
때 일수에 맞게 계산을 했을 때 약 24억 명에 이르는 여행자가 있을 것으로 예상이 되고요. 또 한국으로 오는
Yeah.
여행객들도 많이 있을 것 같습니다.
I think we already heard of a lot of Chinese tourists coming in because of the new visa arrangements.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So all of this is expected, right?
Right. When something is expected, it means that something is regarded as likely to happen. So it hasn't happened yet, but we are expecting it to happen.
그렇죠. 예상되는 게 있을 때 something is expected to happen 이렇게 예상을 하고 China is expecting something 그러면은 중국이 이렇게 예상하고 있습니다라는 뜻이 되겠죠. 자, 그런데 우리가 뭔가 기대를 할 때는 expect만 쓰는 거는 맞지 않고요. 너무 기대가 돼. 그럼 I'm really looking forward to it. That's the most common way of saying.
Yeah.
너무 기대된다. 예상된다라고 할 때 expect를 많이 쓰는
Yeah.
겁니다.
I also want to add, so when you just say, oh, she's expecting, then that means that she is expecting a baby. She's pregnant.
She's pregnant,
Yes.
exactly. So never just say, I'm expecting, unless you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about upcoming?
Upcoming. So upcoming means happening or appearing soon or in the relatively near future.
Upcoming something. 다가오는 무엇. The upcoming 8-day Golden Week holiday in China. So for us here in Korea, technically we have 7 days off from the 3rd of October until the 9th of October. But then, of course, some people might get the Friday off as well.
Yep.
And then if you link that to the weekend after, then it's a total of 10 days. So the upcoming extended Chuseok holiday in Korea could be anywhere between 7 to 10 days. But in China, it starts today and it's 8 days.
Yep.
Upcoming. 자, 다가오는 뭐뭐뭐. 뭐든지 여기다 붙일 수 있어요. The upcoming event, the upcoming holiday, whatever. My upcoming birthday 이런 식으로 표현할 수도 있고요. Here it is again. China is expecting around 2.4 billion journeys during the upcoming 8-day Golden Week holiday starting today. Let's move on to the next headline.
The New Zealand falcon, which goes by the Maori name karearea, has been crowned the winner of the country's annual Bird of the Year competition, taking 21% of the votes.
매년 뉴질랜드에서 집계하는 올해의 새 대회에서 마오리어로 카레아레아로도 불리는 뉴질랜드 매가 21%의 득표율로 최종 선정됐습니다. Tell us more.
I love that they have this kind of competition.
Yeah.
Bird of the Year. So yes, the karearea, it's a falcon, and it's won the country's annual Bird of the Year competition. It won 21% of the votes, and it was the 20th anniversary, the 20th year that they've held such a competition in the country.
Yeah.
So this bird, it's known for reaching speeds of 200 kilometers per hour in a dive. Can you imagine? And it's also endangered with only 5,000 to 8,000 of these birds remaining. The competition, it's been organized by a conservation group called Forest and Bird, and it featured 73 native species, each promoted by volunteer campaign managers through memes, reels, and posters. And this year, they saw a record 75,000 voters, and they say that the Kia and Black Robin came close behind in votes. So the birds that were in the top 10 are predominantly threatened, and they highlighted the impact of habitat destruction, climate change, and introduced some of the predators that these birds face. And as part of its win, the Karearea will feature in a new Maori language Waiata, while other notable entrants included the Kakapo, the Takahe, and Ruru, and the event continues to raise awareness of New Zealand's endangered bird species.
Yeah, I was going to say the whole aim of this contest is obviously going to be to raise awareness. It's not like we're going to give the bird a medal or anything like that.
Of course.
But just so that people are more aware of the situation, that these birds are endangered, and we make sure the natural environment is more favorable towards them.
And people know about these birds.
Yeah, exactly. 그래요. 어떻게 보면은 인식을 좀 제고하기 위한 그런 목적으로 올해의 새 컨테스트가 이렇게 벌써 20년째 이어지고 있는 것 같은데 이번에 1등을 한 그 새가 바로 카레아레아라고도 불리우는 마오리 뭐였죠? 뉴질랜드 매였습니다.
I mean, thanks to this, we even get to know
그래, 우리도
about
알게
the bird.
됐잖아요.
Yeah.
그러니까 바로 그겁니다. 이제 뉴질랜드 안에서뿐만 아니라 이게 또 뉴스에 나오니까 저도 이제 뉴질랜드 매 카레아레아라는 새가 있구나. 지금 개체 수가 뭐 5,000에서 8,000 정도밖에 남아 있지 않다고 하는데 좀 더 많이 늘었으면 좋겠다라는 생각이 저도 생기네요. Alright. So this bird goes by the name Karearea.
Yep. So it go by the name of something. It means to be known or to be called by a specific name.
To go by 그러고 이름을 말하면은 이렇게 불린다라는 뜻이 되겠죠. So oftentimes famous people, they will go by the shortened version of their name. So for example, William Gates goes by Bill Gates.
Yep.
No one calls him by his full
No
name.
one calls him William Gates.
그런 것처럼 아니면 뭐 닉네임이 만약에 있다 그러면은 who's the Rock? What's his full name? Dwayne Johnson.
Yes.
맞나요? Dwayne. 네.
Dwayne something Johnson. Yeah.
그래요. 그래서 Dwayne Johnson, he goes by the nickname The Rock.
Yeah.
이런 식으로 이렇게 불리운다. 자, 이렇게 말하고요. What about to be crowned the winner?
If you're crowned the winner, it means you are officially declared or recognized as the victor or the winner in some sort of competition, contest, or event.
그렇죠. 우승자로 선정되는 것을 be crowned the winner. If you're crowned, that means someone has put a crown on your head. So you've become like the king or the queen. You have won something.
Yeah, like a title, it could be
Yeah.
a position or
Exactly.
a recognition for some sort of achievement.
So not a literal crown, but a title, a medal, something. You've won, basically. You've been crowned the winner. 우승했다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. The New Zealand falcon, which goes by the Maori name, the Karearea, has been crowned the winner of the country's annual Bird of the Year competition, taking 21% of the votes. Let's move on to the next headline.
Polish adventure skier Andrzej Bargiel has made history by becoming the first person to climb up and ski down Mount Everest without the use of additional oxygen.
폴란드 산악인 안제이 바르기엘이 보조 산소 없이 에베레스트에 오른 후 정상에서 베이스 캠프까지 스키를 타고 내려오는 세계 최초 기록을 세웠습니다. Oh, tell us about this.
Yeah, so this is an amazing feat. He is 37 years old and he succeeded this on his third attempt, having abandoned previous climbs in 2019 and 2022 due to dangerous conditions. So he spent nearly 16 hours in the death zone, that's above 8,000 meters, where oxygen levels are only a third of those at sea level, before skiing down through the Khumbu Icefall, which is one of Everest's most perilous sections guided partly by a drone operated by his brother. Only around 200 people have climbed Everest without additional oxygen, and no one had previously completed a continuous ski descent at that altitude. So the achievement has been hailed as a milestone in ski mountaineering, with the Polish Prime Minister celebrating the feat on social media. And Bargiel previously became the first person to ski down K2 in Pakistan back in 2018. So this will be another one of his milestones or accolades that he can add onto his list.
I mean, just climbing Mount Everest alone
Yeah.
is an amazing feat.
It's an amazing feat,
But
right?
to do this without oxygen and then to ski
down?
down. Oh, wow. Let's have a look at to make history.
To make history, so it means that you have accomplished something so important, so spectacular, or so new that it becomes a very significant and memorable event that's destined to be recorded in historical accounts and remembered for a long time. So people will remember him as the person who skied down Mount Everest
Yeah.
without some sort of oxygen tank or oxygen mask.
To make history, 역사에 남다. 어떤 대단한 기록을 세웠다가 될 수도 있고요. 뭐 기록이 꼭 아니더라도 어쨌든 이제 역사에 길이 남을 만한 일을 했다. To make history라고 할 수 있습니다. 여기선 다 해당되겠네요. 기록도 세웠고 역사에도 당연히 남을 거고요. 아까 얘기했던 death zone이라는 게 이제 해발 8,000m부터가 산소의 양이 산소의 농도가 급격하게
Yeah.
떨어져서
It's hard to breathe.
그렇죠. 숨쉬기도 힘들고 뇌에도
Yeah.
영향을 미치고
You could die.
맞아요. 치명적일 수도 있는데 그런 데를 산소 없이 갔다는 게 추가적인 그런 산소 탱크라든가 이런 거 없이 갔다는 게 참 대단합니다. Let's have a look at additional.
Additional. So it's an adjective. It means added, extra, or more than what is already present or expected.
그렇죠. 보조 산소 없이 이렇게 했거든요. So he had no additional oxygen. Of course, you know, you have the oxygen that you breathe and things like that,
Right,
but no
right.
additional apparatus
Yeah.
or anything to help you breathe. 추가적인 것, additional. 다시 읽어보겠습니다. Polish adventure skier Andrzej Bargiel has made history by becoming the first person to climb up and ski down Mount Everest without the use of additional oxygen. Well, that's it for the headlines with Karen Choi.
Korea's exports rose 12.7% from a year earlier in September on the back of strong demand for semiconductors, reaching an all-time high for the first time in over 3 years, according to government data.
우리나라 9월 수출이 반도체 수요 호조에 힘입어 작년보다 12.7% 증가해 3년 6개월 만에 역대 최대치를 경신했습니다. Tell us more.
Yeah, so outbound shipments came out to 65.95 billion US dollars last month. This marks an all-time high following the previous record set in March of 2022 and also 4 straight months of the on-year growth now. So certainly exports heading in the right direction. Semiconductor exports went up 22% compared to auto exports being 16.8%, and ship exports surged 21.9%. One thing I found interesting is by destination, of the 8 major regions, exports grew in 7 of those 8. The only area it did not grow was in the United States.
Of course, because of the tariffs.
Gee, I wonder why.
All right. Well, let's have a look at on the back of something.
On the back of something, meaning that you're getting a boost from this, or this is the reason that you're able to do something. And I think the image that you could put in your head for this is imagine somebody carrying you on their back, like a piggyback or like a 업어준다, right? If someone's carrying you, they're kind of helping you, and yeah, they're kind of a large reason for why this is happening.
On the back of something. 무엇 덕분에. 무엇에 힘입어. So on the back of strong demand for semiconductors. And oftentimes when we hear stories about outbound shipments from Korea, chips or semiconductors will be mentioned because they do play such a big part in increasing exports. 자, 그래서 반도체의 수요가 굉장히 높았기 때문에 그 덕분에 지난 9월 달에 수출이 굉장히 많이 올랐다라는 얘기였고요. 미국을 제외한 7개국으로의 수출이 증가한 모습이었습니다. Let's have a look at reaching an all-time high.
Reaching an all-time high, meaning that they're breaking records. They're doing something that they haven't done before. And yeah, you think of like if you're reaching for something, think of something that you're trying to grab. You're kind of stretching your arm out at a length that you haven't done before in this sense. So you're reaching for something that's far. And, in this case, it's an all-time high in terms of numbers.
reach가 지금 손을 쭉 뻗으면서 선생님이 설명을 해주셨는데요. 무언가를 잡다의 의미도 있을 수 있고 어디에 도달하다의 의미도 있을 수 있어요. 그러다 보니까 여기서 가장 높은 수치에 도달했다.
And
다시 말,
No, I was just going to say, it can work the other way as well. You will hear it sometimes as reaching an all-time low.
Of course.
So it does work both ways when you're reaching.
그래요. 자, 여기서는 an all-time high, 사상 최고치를 기록했다. 이렇게 해석을 하면 되겠죠? 근데 만약에 사상 최저치를 기록했다 하고 싶으면은 reaching an all-time low. Well, here's the headline again. Korea's exports rose 12.7% from a year earlier in September on the back of strong demand for semiconductors, reaching an all-time high for the first time in over 3 years, according to government data. Let's move on to the next headline.
Rain is in the forecast as we head into the holidays, with rain accompanied by strong winds and high waves expected for Jeju and the southern coastline later today, which will likely make trips home to island areas difficult this Chuseok.
추석 연휴로 접어들면서 비 소식이 예고된 가운데 오늘 늦게 제주와 남해안 지역에 강한 바람과 높은 파도를 동반한 비가 예상됨에 따라 섬으로 이동하는 기성객들이 이동에 불편을 겪을 것으로 보입니다. Okay, so the official holiday begins tomorrow, but some people might be heading home from today. I think a lot more of the people will be heading home the day before Chuseok or just around that time. But rain is in the forecast from this evening onwards, right?
Yeah, and I think this is talking more about the southern regions.
For now, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at my forecasts, and my forecast that I look at didn't seem to have any rain in the forecast until maybe Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
So not quite as early as they're projecting for the central and southern areas of Korea.
Well, the southern areas, so the southern region will definitely be receiving some rain later today and tomorrow and the day after as well, it looks like. And then the rain will be moving north to the central regions where we are. So around Chuseok, on the day of, I think it's going to be rainy here in Seoul and Gyeonggi, possibly. But, the reason this is important is because a lot of people will be heading home to their hometowns to meet relatives and family members. And some people have to take boats and ships to get to these areas. That's going to be difficult if there are high waves and strong winds and a lot of rain.
Sometimes, they cancel boat rides as well if the waves are too high. I know, as an example, to Ulleungdo area, which is quite a bit off the east coast, sometimes if the weather isn't good, then they will cancel some of those ferry rides.
Exactly. Okay, so rain is in the forecast.
Yeah, a forecast is looking forward. So we're kind of trying to predict the future. And the weather forecast is when we look into the future and try to guess what we think the weather will be like.
Yeah.
It's not always perfect, as we know, but we do the best we can with modern technology. And ideally, we're getting better and better at it. But any kind of forecast, there's a weather forecast, but you can also have financial forecasts, different things where you're trying to predict the future.
Exactly. Forecast, 예보. Weather forecast, 일기예보. So something is in the forecast. 무엇이 예보되어 있습니다. Another way of saying this would be rain is expected.
Yeah.
Or we are expecting rain. in the southern regions today, tomorrow, and maybe the day after as well. And then that's going to move up to the central region. So we're talking about the Seoul metropolitan area and also Gangwon-do as well around Chuseok. So first of all, today, later on today, we'll be seeing a lot of high waves and strong winds along the southern coastline and Jeju. But let's have a look at southern coastline.
Yeah, so the southern coastline would be pretty much where the land meets the water from, I guess it'd be like Mokpo all the way over to Busan. So anything that's on the southern coast of Korea. And it's basically, a coastline is essentially where the land meets the water.
Yeah.
So in this case, it'd be the sea, I don't know what the body of water, the southern sea, I guess, of Korea anyways.
Yeah, 그래요. 여기서 말하는 남해안을 영어로는 Korea's southern coastline 이렇게 표현을 합니다. 단어 하나하나 놓게 보면은 남쪽에 있는 최남단에 있는 해안가 southern coastline 이 두 단어가 합쳐진 거죠. 남해안을 말합니다. Well, here's the headline again. Rain is in the forecast as we head into the holidays, with rain accompanied by strong winds and high waves expected for Jeju and the southern coastline later today, which will likely make trips home to island areas difficult this Chuseok.
This year's Chuseok full moon is set to rise at 5:32 p.m. on Monday in Seoul, reaching its peak at 11:50 p.m. according to the Korea Astronomy and Space Science Institute.
올해 한가위 보름달은 서울 기준으로 6일 오후 5시 32분부터 볼 수 있으며 보름달이 가장 높이 뜨는 시각은 이날 밤 11시 50분이 될 것이라고 한국천문연구원이 발표했습니다. Now, understandably, depending on where you are in the country, there'll be a bit of a difference in terms of when you can see the moon. So I believe in Busan, it's going to be a few minutes later than in Seoul.
Yeah, it's 5:31 in Sejong.
Okay.
It is 5:24 in Busan, 5:26 in Daegu. Gwangju, it's 5:30, and I think 5:33 in Incheon.
Okay, so it's earlier. You can see it earlier. Well, from it, it's not like a momentary thing, but you can see it from a little earlier down south, and then as we move upwards, we'll be seeing it a little bit later. But that's the moon rising, and then you have ample time to see it.
Yeah, and they're saying the moon actually reaches its fullest phase when it's directly opposite the sun. That's going to be at 12:48 on Tuesday, not Monday, the day after Chuseok.
Okay.
But because this actually happens in broad daylight, the moon actually won't be quite as visible so when it's at its absolute fullest.
Yep. But around midnight on Chuseok Day, across the nation, you should be able to see it at its peak in terms of how we can see it anyhow.
How high it will be in this night sky.
Exactly. But I think any time after around 5:30, 6, 7, 8, you should be able to see the moon, given that the skies are clear. Now, they are saying it's going to be a cloudy night for most areas, and for some of the areas along the East Coast, you might not be able to see it. So it really depends on the weather. But I think hopefully we'll be able to see the moon and make our wishes. Do you usually make a wish?
I've never done that with the moon. I think as kids, we wish upon a star.
Yeah.
But
in the West.
Yeah. I guess in Korea or in Asia, you wish on the moon,
They
the full
do.
moon.
Yeah, that's what they do. All right. Well, the moon is set to rise at roughly around 5:30 on Chuseok Day.
Yeah, when we say like a moon rise, I guess, or a sunrise, it's when it's first visible. So when it comes up when it comes up on the horizon, meaning up above the land, so you can actually see it. And if something is set to rise, then it's kind of scheduled too. There's a time factor of this is when it's going to happen.
그렇죠. 뭐뭐 할 예정이다 is set to. 그리고 뜨다 지다 set. 우리가
Sunrise, and
sunrise.
sunset.
그렇죠, 그렇죠. 네. 여기 문장 안에 세트도 들어가고
Yeah.
rise도 들어있는데 여기서의 세트 의미는 그 이제 지다의 의미가 아니라 뭐뭐 할 예정이다의 의미죠. is set to rise. 그러면 뜰 예정이다가 되겠고요. 만약에 질 예정이다 하면 is set to set. 이렇게 하면 되겠네요. The sun is set to set. 근데 물론
Yeah.
이렇게 잘 쓰진 않겠죠. 왜냐하면 똑같은 단어를 붙여서 쓰는 거 영어는 별로 좋아하진 않지만 해도 돼요. That would make sense even though it's not that natural sounding.
It would be done deliberately
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you were to do it like that.
그러네요. 네, 그래서 sunset, sunrise 하는 것처럼 moon, 또 rise하고 set 한다고 표현을 할 수 있을 것 같고요. The 추석 full moon is set to rise at around 5:30 in Seoul, and I think you said Incheon earlier on, around 5:20 in the Busan area. So depending on where you are, it's going to be around that time.
A few minutes of
Yeah.
discrepancy.
맞아요. And it'll reach its peak just before midnight.
Yeah, and when you reach a peak, then that is the highest that it's going to go. We often talk about mountain peaks,
Yeah.
and that is the highest point of a mountain. When we talk about a summit, is like the highest point as well by elevation, but a peak is like sort of like the triangular point at the top of something. So in the same way, the highest point that the moon will reach in the sky, that's going to be the peak.
The peak, P-E-A-K는 가장 높은 점. 그래서 그 정점에 이르는, 가장 높은 점에 이르는 시간을 얘기하고 있습니다.
And remember earlier we talked about reaching an all-time high.
Yeah.
So same thing here, we're reaching its peak in this case as well.
Exactly. Well, here's the headline again. This year's Chuseok full moon is set to rise at 5:32 p.m. on Monday in Seoul, reaching its peak at 11:50 p.m. according to the Korea Astronomy and Space Science Institute. Let's move on to the next headline.
NASA has unveiled the next generation of U.S. astronauts who could take part in landmark missions, returning to the moon and eventually landing on Mars.
미 항공우주국 나사가 앞으로 달 탐사 재개와 화성 착륙 등 주요 임무를 수행할 새 우주 비행사 후보 10명을 공개했습니다. All right, so we have new astronauts who could go back to the moon. Tell us more.
They had 8,000 applicants going after these 10 spots. And I found it very interesting how they chose these people. There's a lot of different interesting stipulations. You have to have a master's degree in a STEM field. I was like, STEM field? I wonder what that is. I was able to guess science technology for the ST and engineering for the E. I was thinking, what is M?
Mathematics.
I thought it might have been medicine. But then I was like, nope, it's mathematics.
Yeah.
So, all the different scientific fields, so makes sense. Typically, they don't have an actual age restriction or requirement, but typically, the successful candidates have been between 26 and 46 years of age. And here's something I found interesting is how much do you think an astronaut earns? In this case, the salary for astronauts is $152,000, a little bit more. So that turns out to be, I think, a little bit over eok in Korean money.
나사 아스트로노트가 되기 위해서는 일단 미국 시민권이 있어야 되고요. 그 다음에는 스템 분야에서 석사 학위가 있어야 되고, 관련된 어떤 경력, 그게 있거나 아니면은, 또 관련된 학위, 또 인정된다고 합니다. 그 외에도 여러 가지 체력적인 부분들도 당연히 보겠죠. 그래서 연령대가 지정이 돼 있진 않지만 합격자들을 보면은 대체적으로 한 26살에서 46살 사이 정도가 된다고 합니다. 평균 연봉은 한 2억 정도가 되고요. Alright, so we have 10, I think, new American astronauts. This is the new generation. What does next generation mean?
A generation is usually a group, it could be a group of people or a group of something, and they're kind of all in the same boat together, usually by time. So when we talk about generations, we often hear millennials or Gen Z or Gen X, baby boomers. It's a group of people that kind of grew up at the same time and sort of relate to the same things in terms of culture by the time. That, of course, as I mentioned, that's the generation of people and how they grew up. In this particular case, it's the next generation of astronauts.
Yeah.
So this generation of astronauts that was hired together in the same time period. This is the next generation or the new generation of astronauts. So usually a group of people or what have you that's separated by time.
그래요. generation은 세대니까 the next generation, 차세대. The next generation of astronauts, 차세대 우주 비행사. Now what about landmark mission? What does that mean?
So a mission is obviously something that you're trying to achieve. They want to go to the moon or they want to go to Mars. This is a goal of theirs. That's the mission that they're trying to do. So what's a landmark mission? When you think of a landmark is something that's visible or recognizable or something that everyone knows or would recognize. So the missions here, it's not going to be just go to the space station or something that people aren't going to pay attention to, but these are going to be headline grabbing missions. So mission to Mars or the mission to the moon. These are going to be things that people are going to be talking about and take notice of.
landmark mission은 역사적인 임무라는 뜻이에요. 보통은 mission이라는 명사 앞에 어떠한 미션인지 형용사가 붙죠. 그래서 landmark mission. 그런데 여기서 궁금증이 생길 수 있거든요. 영화 제목 Mission Impossible 같은 경우에는 Why isn't it called Impossible Mission? Why is it called Mission Impossible? 이 순서가 좀 궁금하실 수 있죠. 이땐 왜 그러냐면은 그냥 불가능한 임무라는 뜻이 아니라 이 미션의 official title 같은 거죠. 그래서 Team Korea 하듯이 Korean team 그러면은 한국의 팀이지만 Team Korea 그러면 한국 국가대표의 어떤 이제 팀 타이틀이거든요. 그것처럼 Mission Impossible 그러면 이 임무의 이름이 불가능인 거예요. 좀 이해가 되실지 모르겠어요.
No, I think you explained it perfectly. Yeah.
So that's what it is. When you have the adjective after the name, you're not just saying this is a mission that is impossible. This is the name of the mission.
It's a title.
It's a title.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing I remember about landmarks, I don't know if it's like this as much anymore, but when I first came to Korea in 2000, I remember every neighborhood had a landmark.
Oh.
So, like, if you went to Hongdae, if I was going to meet someone in Hongdae, there was a particular chicken restaurant that we all met at.
Yep.
If I was going to meet someone in Gangnam, at Gangnam Station, there was a record store that we all met in front of.
And in Apgujeong, there was this fast food store that everyone went to.
Yeah, same as in Shincheon. So those were like landmark places. So like when you were going to meet, it's like, okay, let's meet here. And it's a landmark that kind of helped you get your bearings or that everyone knew about. This is the place to go to. And it's just famous places that everybody knows.
I think another reason we had those things and people don't, do or talk about those so much these days is because back then we didn't have smartphones.
Yeah.
So there was no way to contact someone else once you were there. So you had to make sure that a specific location was had been decided on and everyone was going to meet there. But these days, you can meet anywhere because you have smartphones. You say, I'm in the blue building next to the convenience store or whatever. So
it's so much easier because back in those days, I think nobody knew where things were in terms of addresses. Like as real estate agents might have known, but if you knew the address of a place in Korea, it was difficult to find.
Yeah.
I think compared to other places in the world. But like you said, now with a smartphone, if you punch in the address on a map, then it's easy to find now.
Exactly. 그래요. 스마트폰 없던 시절에는 진짜 이렇게 각 지역마다 랜드마크급의 어떤 이제 상점이 하나씩 있어가지고 거기서 보자. 그리고 전화기 없이 그냥 다 거기서
And it was always crowded.
맞아요. 엄청 사람들이 거기 많이 몰려 있어서 마냥 기다리고 그럴 때가 있었죠. 자, 다시 한번 헤드라인 읽어보겠습니다. NASA has unveiled the next generation of US astronauts who could take part in landmark missions, returning to the moon and eventually landing on Mars. Now let's move on to the final headline.
A German man has won more than 15 million euros in the lottery after discovering a forgotten ticket in his coat pocket 6 months after he bought it.
6개월 전에 구매한 뒤 잊고 있던 복권을 코트 주머니에서 뒤늦게 확인한 한 독일 남성이 1,500만 유로, 우리 돈으로 250억 원이 넘는 당첨금을 받게 됐습니다. How lucky! Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so he bought the ticket, I guess, in winter or early spring, and then he had kind of forgotten about this for spring and summer. And there were like poster campaigns because the lotto company were trying to find this person. He'd even noticed the posters, but never even thought to think that he had this ticket because it was in one of his jacket pockets that he didn't really have available until the weather started to get colder. And because of it's getting colder, he pulled out this jacket and realized, oh, wait, what's this in my pocket?
Yeah.
It's the winning lottery ticket.
Yeah, well, I mean, initially he didn't know it was the winning one. I think he checked the numbers just for fun, and then he went, oh, okay, that's the same number. And what? I've won! And he was shocked.
15 million euros. My wife came up with a great hack for lotteries. And I thought this was actually quite brilliant because, first off, you can't win the lottery if you don't have a ticket.
Sure.
But at the same time, you don't want to spend too much money on lottery tickets. If you're spending like $10 or $20 every week on lottery tickets, then you're going to lose a lot of money if you don't win. So the key is if you want to win, it's not about winning that makes you feel good. It's the dream. Like, oh, what would I do if I won? So what she would do is she would buy a $1 ticket and then just not look at it for like almost a year. And then because if you confirm that you didn't win, now the dream's over. You woke up from the dream. But if you just don't check, I could still have the winning lottery ticket.
She could end up in the news like this person.
And you will have only spent $1 for a year to be allowed to dream.
Oh, wow.
I thought that was brilliant.
That is quite brilliant. All right. Let's have a look at winning something in the lottery.
Yeah, in this case, they won more than 15 euros in the lottery. If you have a ticket, a lottery is when one or a small number of people or things are selected out of a large group. So you have millions of tickets out there, but this one is the winner, and that's winning a lottery.
Win 얼마 in the lottery. 복권에서 얼마에 당첨되다. Well, this was a forgotten ticket.
Which is a ticket that you haven't thought about. You forgot about it. You bought it, you have it, but it's not on your mind anymore. So it's something that you don't think about.
잊어버렸던 티켓, 잊고 지냈던 복권. 그런 뜻이 되겠네요. 다시 읽어보겠습니다. A German man has won more than 15 million euros in the lottery after discovering a forgotten ticket in his coat pocket 6 months after he bought it. Well, that's it for the headlines with Jason Lee.